Ever felt like being right was more important than being happy? Have you ever let your pride get in the way of a friendship you cherished? Today I'm going to share a story that will make you rethink everything you know about pride, apology, and the true meaning of success. It's a story about how one simple phrase, "I'm sorry," can change a life. This isn't just a tale. It's a lesson that might just save a relationship you care about. So stick around, because what you're about to hear is something you won't forget. Our story begins in the bustling, competitive halls of one of India's top high schools. Meet Sarah. At 17, she wasn't just a student, she was a phenomenon. First in her class, captain of the debate team, and the girl everyone expected to top the national exams. Sarah's world was built on a foundation of achievement and perfection. She believed that success was everything, and that weakness was not an option. By her side through it all was Priya. They were more than best friends. They were like two halves of the same soul. Priya wasn't as academically driven as Sarah, but she had a heart of gold and was Sarah's biggest cheerleader. She was the one who brought Sarah's snacks during late-night study sessions, the one who listened to her fears, and the one who celebrated her victories as if they were her own. Their bond seemed unbreakable. One afternoon, the physics test results were posted on the main notice board. A crowd of anxious students gathered, their chatter filling the corridor. Sarah, confident as ever, pushed her way to the front. She scanned the list and found her name right where she expected it, at the very top. A familiar smile of satisfaction spread across her face. Then her eyes drifted down the list, searching for Priya's name. She found it near the bottom. Priya had failed. At that moment, something ugly twisted inside Sarah. It was pride, in its most toxic form. Instead of feeling empathy for her friend, she felt a strange mix of disappointment and embarrassment. How could her best friend fail? Later that day, in the crowded school canteen, Priya was sitting alone, looking dejected. Sarah walked over, not with a comforting word, but with a sharp tone. In front of everyone, Sarah said loudly, "I can't believe you failed, Priya. After all the hours I spent helping you. It's like you didn't even try. It's just embarrassing." The words hung in the air, sharp and cruel. The canteen went quiet. All eyes were on them. Priya's face turned pale, her eyes welling up with tears. She didn't say a word. She just stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked away, leaving Sarah standing there, wrapped in her cold, hard pride. Sarah thought Priya would get over it. She was wrong. The next day, Priya wasn't in her usual seat. She didn't answer Sarah's calls. She left her texts on read. Days turned into a week. Priya actively avoided her, changing her path in the hallways, sitting with a different group at lunch. The silence was deafening. But it wasn't just Priya. The ripple effect was devastating. Their shared circle of friends who had witnessed the public shaming began to drift away from Sarah. The friendly smiles were replaced with awkward glances. The lunch table that was once filled with laughter was now a place Sarah sat alone. Her classmates saw her not as a leader, but as someone cold and arrogant. Sarah tried to rationalize it. She told herself she was right. She told herself she was just trying to motivate Priya, but deep down a seed of doubt had been planted. Her pride had built a wall around her, and she was now a prisoner in a fortress of her own making. The loneliness was a constant ache. She was still at the top of her class, but she had never felt more like a failure. The victories felt hollow without anyone to share them with. The pressure mounted. The final exams, the most important exams of their lives, were approaching. Sarah tried to study, but her mind was a battlefield. Priya's tear-filled eyes, the silence of her friends, the empty seat beside her, these images haunted her. She couldn't focus. The equations blurred, the historical dates jumbled. The stress was a physical weight, pressing down on her, suffocating her. For the first time, Sarah, the perfect student, was unraveling. The day of the first final exam arrived. Sarah walked into the hall feeling sick. She sat at her desk, her hands trembling. When the paper was placed in front of her, her mind went completely blank. Panic set in. The words swam before her eyes. She couldn't remember formulas she had known for years. The ticking clock sounded like a drumbeat of doom. She scribbled nonsensical answers, her heart pounding in her chest. She bombed the exam, and the next one, and the one after that. Her world collapsed. The foundation of her identity, her academic excellence, had crumbled. The girl who was supposed to top the nation was now facing the possibility of failing her final year. All the trophies, all the awards, all the #1 ranks, they meant nothing now. In her moment of absolute devastation, only one person came to her mind: Priya. That evening, a storm broke over the city. Rain lashed against the windows, mirroring the tempest in Sarah's soul. She didn't grab a coat or an umbrella, she just ran. She ran through the rain-soaked streets, her clothes drenched, tears mixing with the downpour on her face. She didn't stop until she was standing in front of Priya's house. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she knocked on the door. It felt like an eternity before it opened. There stood Priya, her eyes wide with surprise. She saw Sarah, soaked to the bone, shivering and broken. For a moment neither of them spoke. The only sound was the relentless rain. And then Sarah did something she had never done before. Her pride, which had cost her everything, finally shattered. She fell to her knees on the wet doorstep. Looking up at Priya with all the raw, painful sincerity she could muster, she choked out the 2 words she should have said weeks ago. "I'm sorry." It wasn't a grand speech. It was just a whisper, raw and desperate. "I'm so sorry, Priya. I was arrogant, and I was cruel. I miss you. I need my friend." Seeing Sarah on her knees, completely stripped of her pride, Priya's expression softened. The hurt that had been clouding her eyes for weeks finally cleared. She didn't hesitate. She knelt in the rain with Sarah, pulling her into a tight hug. As they held each other, crying and soaked, the walls that pride had built between them washed away. In that moment of forgiveness, something shifted. It wasn't just about passing an exam anymore. It was about rebuilding a bond that was far more valuable. Priya helped Sarah up and brought her inside. They talked for hours, really talked for the first time in a long time. Priya hadn't just been hurt. She had been struggling with her own feelings of inadequacy, and Sarah's words had confirmed her worst fears. But now there was no blame, only understanding. The school, seeing Sarah's breakdown, granted her a chance to resit the exam she had failed. This time she wasn't alone. Priya was by her side. They studied together, not as a tutor and a student, but as equals, as partners. Priya helped calm Sarah's anxiety, and Sarah helped explain the complex concepts. They were a team again. When the re-exam results came out, they both had passed with flying colors. But as they stood there, looking at the notice board, the grades didn't matter as much. They looked at each other and smiled. They had achieved a far greater victory. They had rediscovered their friendship. Sarah learned the most important lesson of her life, a lesson that no textbook could ever teach her. She learned that humility isn't weakness. It's the ultimate strength. It's the key that unlocks the doors that pride slams shut. Being right is temporary, but connection, forgiveness, and love are what truly define a successful life. So think about it. Is there a door in your life that pride has shut? A conversation you're avoiding, an apology you're withholding? Maybe it's time to find your own courage to say those 2 simple words. You might be surprised by the world that opens up when you do, because in the end it's not about who is right or wrong, but about who is willing to be humble enough to heal. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire and make you think. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had a similar experience. I'd love to hear from you. Take care and see you in the next video.